Good morning, day 160. And it's a little cloudy today, but it's Florida. That's no big deal. Like, it's cloudy. There's a lot of water and humidity in the air. So there's always, a lot of times there's a lot of clouds and they don't mean a thing. Or they might just flow. The wind blows them. Anyway, that's not what you're here for. What are we here for? Like, the $1 million question that has like dumbfounded philosophers and theologians and just everyday people who sit around and think about the meaning of life. Like, what is happening here? What does it all mean? We want to know. We want to know. And even though the Bible says you're not going to know, just trust me. Just trust me. And not only trust me, but then live that trust out. Which, that, when the rubber meets the road, and it is counter to our human thinking, and we get kicked out of the pack, we get called names, we get ostracized, made fun of. Like, we don't like that. Well, like, I'll keep my trust to myself. I'll just keep it in here, keep it quiet. And I don't think that's what we're here for. I think we're supposed to live that trust and that faith out loud in the face of ridicule. So in Isaiah chapters, I'm at 51 and 52 this morning. And even in 50, right here in the middle of Isaiah, well, really throughout Isaiah, we get these prophecies of Jesus coming. And it's almost like Jesus is talking hundreds of years ahead of his human existence. But he already exists. He already knows what's coming. He's there, like he exists. Even though his essence exists, even though his human form hasn't been manifested yet. So there were a few verses that were catching my attention. I was like, God, like I just wasn't feeling it this morning. I'm like, I don't know what to say, God. Holy Spirit, you were going to have to take over. So let's see what happens. So I was going to use a phrase that's like a common idiom in our country, at least in America, is this idea of being cut from the same cloth. Because in the beginning of chapter 52, we get this like, hey, remember who you are. I mind you, like the quarry that I mind you from, the rock, the substance from which you're made, is the same substance that I created Abraham and Sarah out of. One person. Now, I turned into a nation. Like, don't forget what you're made of. And then at the end of the previous chapter, in 51, we get this concept of light. Like, you who walk in darkness, I'm paraphrasing, you who walk in darkness, put your trust in the Lord. You will have light. Those of you that try to create your own light and live by your own light and create and get warmed by your own fires will end up in torment. I thought, well, that's interesting, because as humans, we can really kind of make up our own stories. We can be easily deceived. We self-deceive. Like, we need to believe in something. Even if you don't believe in God, your brain will make up a story of what this all means. For some, it's like, hey, let's party, enjoy life. We learned all about the different ways in Proverbs, right? Like, hey, you only live once. Might as well enjoy it. Who cares what it means? I'm not going to be here to find out. Like, let's just enjoy the day. Or we make up our own gods. The Bible is all about, talking about idols. We make up our own belief systems. And they make us happy, and we're satisfied. We feel warmed by the stories we tell ourselves and the light that it brings. And we're like, hey, I'm good. I don't need you, God. I got this over here, right? We do it. I've done it. I still do it sometimes. I forget, because I'm a human. I'm able to self-deceive very easily. I do it in all kinds of areas in my life. I don't know if you do. I convince myself that I'm a good mom, and I actually am those things. But sometimes even when I mess up, my ego wants to jump in and defend and go, well, I mean, if you hadn't done this and this hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have had to act like that, right? Right? Our ability to make meaning out of things, we are meaning-making machines. We've got it. So that's why we've got to be really careful to remember, oh yeah, I didn't create myself, even though I do, because of free will and choice, I do get to create my own experience of life. But is it the full potential of what it can be? When I was thinking about even the example used in the Bible of, remember the quarry from which I mined you from, what you're made of, and the diamond, like, isn't a diamond a lump of coal before it is honed and polished and all of that? And is that really what we are too? Yes, we're lumps of coal, and we can live our lives as happy little lumps of coal. But are we missing out on the greater thing of being that diamond, being a reflection of God's light and God's perfection? We're not diamonds on our own. Something has been done to us, and we even diamonds reflect and even have an inner, like, prism of beauty, like the facets and what we think of as a diamond and why it's so highly valued. And you can tell the fake ones, but they have pretty good imitations that are really hard to tell. Like, you need, the expert, the specialist. I was walking my dogs this morning, and they're cut from the same cloth, like they're dogs. But even within the dog kingdom, there's an essence even of certain personality types, according to breed, and how different and how reliable that is. I think that's going down a tangent in another rabbit hole, but there's this essence that we each have as a created being by a divine creator who says, hey, when you plug into me, when you get it, when you understand that there's a part of you that is not human, you're just in a human body, that part of you, that essence that knows its creator, that has that, when we unleash that and allow it to not only plug in, but to shine brightly in the world, despite the ridicule, despite, other people being kicked out of the club. Boy, that is also when something else happens. That essential essence gets actualized into what it can be, coal to diamond. But a lot of us are just too afraid. And maybe and I know maybe I'll have to do a little research before I write. But I know there's different classes of diamonds and rough cut and that still have value, right? But they don't fully actualize. And in chapter 51 is when they start to describe what's going to happen to Jesus and the ridicule that he's going to face. And he even talks about having a strong face, like I can handle this because I know my essence. I know who I am because I'm connected to my creator. I'm here for a mission and a purpose. And these people out here are the ones you should feel sorry for. They're the ones that don't get it. They're missing this essence. They have it, but they're suppressing it. They're ignoring it. They're only plugging into what being a human means. They're missing the bigger picture. And that's who we should feel sorry for. Jesus on the cross in the New Testament says, "Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do." And even in his own essence, in that moment, he understands and has compassion for people that don't get it. If they knew, if they allowed that essence to be let out of its cage and were able to get over their human fears, they would have been able to see it. This is, I think, why philosophers and the religious people have tried to explain why so much of the New Testament and even in the Old Testament are parables. Like, you can't, right now we use all these letters in texts and social media, right? And there's a very popular saying right now that's happening, these hashtag, if you know, you know. Well, that's a Christianese thing too, right? It's like, well, if you know, you know. And you can't know until you know. Like, you have to let out, open the cage door, whatever analogy works for you, your essence. And that scares us, though. We're like, but if I acknowledge this part of me, this essential, this essence of me, and it's an essential ingredient for connecting me to the greater whatever is happening, then I might be kicked out of the club. And I don't think I can be kicked out of the club. So I'm going to either keep it quiet or only meet in secret with people that agree with me and we can all talk about it. But we're not going to go out and light up the world. We're going to keep it safe and keep it closed off. That's not what Jesus role modeled. I can't wait to get to the New Testament. But we're getting a preview of it here. He's saying, hey, I can't not be who I am because of whose I am and what is happening here. And I'm going to show you how it's done and what is possible if you will just trust God and live in his light. Stop trying to create your own. Stop trying to cover up your essence. If you want to experience the fullness of this combination of human life with divine potential, supernaturalness, you got to get out of the way. You got to get your humanness out of the way. And actually, no, that's not right. Let me back up. I don't think we've got to get it out of the way. Going back to even yesterday's, we've got to put it in the right order. We've got to let the MVP come out and be the MVP. And we're putting our mind, our logic, our bodies, our physical experiences in the spot of the MVP. And we're not winning at this game of life. If we can get it in the right order, let God be the coach and say, hey, trust me. We need to put this player in. He's been over here doing some push-ups and some work. We got to put that skill to work in the game. And so that we can be fully who we are. The essence is there. Like he's telling us, I mind you. You came from what I created, the rock of what I created. The essence is in there. You just have to cooperate because we have this thing called free will. Hey, good morning. So, I hope that made sense. I was like, Holy Spirit, I don't know. Because this stuff is hard. It's hard to put into words. It's more of like, well, if you know, you know. And you can't know it unless you like kind of do it. You step out in faith. You trust. And you let go of your human ego. Allow it to be made fun of. Actually, a lot of times you don't actually get made fun of. A lot of people actually end up respecting you more and they want to follow. They want more of what you got. But your ego is going to tell you, scary, don't do it. Like, we're going to be, no, people will think we're weird. And there might be some that will, but there's going to be a whole lot more that are like, what's happening over there? Their essence recognizes your essence, recognizing its essence. Like, it's a ripple. And we tap into that. We recognize it. There's a part of us that's like curious, and we're like, what's that about? What's happening over there? So be that light. That's the light that we're talking about, is that letting that essentialness, your essence, out. And the interesting thing, though, is that you can live your life as a lump of coal. Nobody's going to force you to be a diamond. Like, you can live a life. And that's where we can easily get confused. We're satisfied. We're content. We're like, I'm good over here. Being a lump of coal is good. And that's totally your choice. Totally your choice. And a lot of people get confused and want to go, and when they start getting it, they want to get self-righteous about it. Then they want to go around wagging their finger at everybody and blah, blah. Then they mess up and corrupt their own essence. And they're not doing it the way Jesus role modeled, which is why often people are repelled by the church and by institutions, and even some individuals, because some individuals get in there because their ego is still in the MVP position. Like, they get it, they're like, I can kind of understand it, but they don't get that ego out of the MVP position. And we got a lot of those, unfortunately, in the religious world and in the church. And our essence recognizes it and says, I don't know, or some that don't. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion for another day. I gotta stop rabbit trailing myself here in rabbit land. So I can't walk my dogs and bring them with you. They're on a rabbit hunt every time we walk. Anyway, it is beautiful here. I feel like my essence is starting to connect to the essence. I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to know. But I had to do it first. And I know we want that reassurance and that knowing to come first. But it just doesn't work that way. Which is why, for those of us that do start to get it, it's so important that we just live out loud, put our hands out and say, here, I got you. Come with me. We can do this together. It's not that scary. And whatever you have figured out in your life, if there's been a part of you that you were keeping suppressed in your essence through bad habits, being asleep to yourself, and that shows up as anxiety and overwhelm, all those things, exhaustion. If you're feeling that in your life, there's a way out. You're trying to live by your own light, and that's exhausting. It's overwhelming. We're not meant to be our own lights. Go find somebody, and sometimes you just got to start with a habit first. That's where I had to start. I couldn't think straight. My essence, there was no way my essence could start to be let out and have this knowing while still drinking a toxic substance that we think is necessary, that we think is essential for enjoying human life. We think the elixir of life, we've got to drink alcohol. No, it blocks life. But you also have to be ready. But if you're overeating, if you're checking out, overspending, whatever you're doing, that's your essence trying to say, hey, I don't want, please. This isn't what life is supposed to be like. It knows, and it's trying to tell you. It's getting your attention, like, ah! So, anyway, so you got to start somewhere. I didn't start here, but it started way back with something, and it was with waking up and realizing that disconnect. Okay, I know life is not supposed to be like this. What's happening? And just being able to get curious and wanting to not get to the end of my life and look back and regret and say, gosh, I wish I would have done the hard work to get out of that habit or that thing. Anyway, I should go. I get long-winded as usual. I'm just so passionate about this. I want us all to wake up and walk in the light together, the real light, not artificial light, not trying to light our own way. We only suffer. That light is finite. It wears out, and we wear out, but we have access to inexhaustible light. Anyway, all right, I love you. Rise and shine. Have a great day. I'm going to go ride some roller coasters today. Maybe somehow that'll show up in tomorrow's ponder.